Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Ushma Tyagi and I shall be your host today. For the second and final episode of this mini series of Dell Technologies webinars powered by Strategic Solutions, we will engage with education and IT leaders and solution experts for a better appreciation of what goes into successful collaboration across modern college, university, and research campuses and their online avatars. Accordingly, for the second episode, our webinar theme is Education and Research Excellence for Virtual Campuses. That is, how modern workspace collaboration solutions can help educational institutes and research organizations drive better outcomes for students, faculty, research teams, and incubation centers. A growing need for Indian industry has been agility, with manufacturers looking at a paradigm shift with a gradual decentralization of production control, thus simplifying the process of manufacturing by itself. Developments that constitute a reversion of existing production logic. The manufacturing sector today seeks to transform entire value chains by transforming them into adaptive nerve centers of enterprises. Over the next 1 hour or so, you can expect to hear IT leaders and workspace collaboration experts share their insights and experiences from real life case studies deploying modern, productivity boosting solutions powered by Dell workstations. So now, without further ado, I hand you over to Mr. Arjun Vishwanathan, Chief Research Officer, Strategic Solutions, to take the floor and introduce our guest speakers today. Over to you, Arjun.
Hello and welcome. My name is Arjun Vishwanathan, and today, to discuss matters that are critical and pivotal to the furtherance of education in India and perhaps equally abroad, I am going to be in conversation with a distinguished member from academia. Please join me in welcoming none other than Dr. Purnendu Ghosh, Executive Director, Birla Institute of Scientific Research, Jaipur, and Vice President, Indian National Academy of Engineering. Dr. Ghosh, we're delighted and very grateful that you could make time out from your very busy schedule, sir, and join us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Arjun, and it is my pleasure to have discussion with you on a subject which is very, very dear to my heart, and I am there for in this profession for the last 45 years. I started my education with IIT and IIT Delhi, and then I was teaching there for many years, and then I moved to Birla's, and I am looking after Birla's education program, CK Birla Groups. So basically, I am still very much involved with education, research, administration. So it is a very, very important, good opportunity for me to discuss with you on something which is very, very dear to me and for, I think for the nation also.
Absolutely, sir. Which is why, Dr. Ghosh, I'm coming to you with a question that is very, very important today. The lessons of the last 10 odd months since we've been in a lockdown and educational institutions by themselves have kind of been shuttered down for the moment. There's been a growing realization that technology has played a very key enabling role for this entire value chain of the teacher and the student and the overall educational system to continue in an unabated manner. In your view, Dr. Ghosh, how important is technology towards the furtherance of education as well as the overall experience in education? Dr. Ghosh.
Yes, actually, as you know, because of the pandemic, even otherwise, we needed a big change in our education system.
Indeed.
This is what I think. COVID has come, pandemic has come. It has given us an opportunity to rethink and more seriously think about the whole thing. Basically, education, particularly I'm talking about engineering education,
Indeed, sir.
where I'm involved. And what I feel is that there are few issues. I think I will talk one by one.
Indeed, sir.
First is the role of teachers. Instead of students, I'm just telling the role of teachers uh, in engineering education. Because what is happening is that people think intelligent machines are going to usurp the job of teachers. That is the very biggest fear among the minds of people, that the machines will come intelligent, this thing, artificial intelligence, this thing, that thing, so many things are going to come, and they will take the job of a teacher. No intelligent machine is going to take the job of a teacher. Only they have to understand the role of a teacher is going to be very different than what it is today. If you are thinking that you will go to the classroom and start teaching and all that, that is going to be very different, because I feel that many things, because of the intelligent machine, because of many other things, web world and all that, many things which we normally teach in the classroom, students will already know. So it will be something like, teacher's role will be not of a teacher, but as a mentor. For example, my main teaching, like I am going to teach you about thermodynamics or kinetics, this thing of first law of thermodynamics, something of that kind, that is going to change, and it will be some very basic ideas will be provided, definitely that they are required. But we will discuss more about applications and all that. We will go, it will be kind of a, what you call, experiential teaching.
Indeed, indeed.
Yeah, experiential teaching, something of that kind, that is going to happen in a very, very big way. And then there will be much more, and that is already have started already happening in many countries, that we will have much more of group work, design projects, case studies, application of exercises with strengthen social and global awareness. All these kind of things are going to be part of education. They are normally they are not neglected now these days, but they are going to be a very important part of education, future education. I mean,
There, can I interrupt you with a very, very, very important question, Dr. Ghosh? Is as more and more students, as well as more and more teachers, are interacting with each other through the medium of what is called a machine or a workstation or a laptop, as the case were to be, how do you think the concepts of education will dynamically change as compared to a more physical, face to face, human touch kind of a concept?
you see, what happens is that we spend most of our time in things which we can really do as a homework, and then go to the class. And the question is, you seldom find that the what you are teaching in the classroom, and when they are practiced, for example, you take anything in this world. My background is chemical engineering, and my specialization is biotechnology. And for example, if you are talking about cells, and you go to the classroom and teach about cells and all that, but somebody is going through a microscope and seeing the cell, and really, and then discuss many other things, and its implications in a systems engineering approach. For example, you are not talking about cell as a cell, then you are talking about cell in a microorganism, in a society, something like that. Like we go on, and total system engineering approach is coming to explain. And that is where I am still telling, teachers have to also work hard to communicate that, something of that kind, because you are not stopping at one particular thing, you're slowly going and going and up. And that is how I think. And suppose it's a very small example I'm just giving you. If you say that you have a cell, you have so many billion base pairs, this thing, that thing, and you cannot do this thing with the help of some textbooks and all that. You need some other methods, which
Media
are
has to.
is very, very, they are going to play a very, very important role.
Then, because Dr. Ghosh, it's very interesting and fascinating that you mentioned this in the amazing manner that you're articulating it. Is you spoke about mentorship. Teachers aren't teachers anymore, but are more mentors. In the whole concept of mentorship, now I think one of the needs for India as a country today is to be able to confidently foster a sense of innovation as well as invention towards obviously becoming more self-reliant and so on and so forth. Therefore, in your view and with your vast experience, Dr. Ghosh, do you see technology being able to play a catalyzing role in teachers enabling students to collaborate more, to develop a sense of innovation and invention more, sir? Dr. Ghosh.
Actually, let me tell you, here I have very, you know, whenever you bring technology in education, there is always some fear. That fear is that maybe the role of a teacher is going to be taken away by technology. But that is not going to happen. That is what I'm trying to tell you. What is happening is that you have to understand that when you are using a technology for imparting education, you are not trying to replace a teacher, but you are making his life easier. That is what I feel is that I am basically what you say that I am using technology, any kind of technology. For example, if you go to a, we used to go to a classroom with the chalk and this thing.
I remember. So was I.
Yeah, and for many, many years, for many, many years. And then we started taking our laptops and many other things for when we go to the classroom. And we find that we save so much time to discuss many other things, and we get no major time you are getting for discussions and all that. The important thing is that you have to understand that technology providers have to make sure that they are not trying to replace the teachers. Once that happens, nobody is going to accept that. But once it is helping them, I think that works.
In your own experience, Dr. Ghosh, now you've seen generational shifts happening in the way education as a system used to function earlier. Like you just mentioned, we used to use chalk and boards first, and then of course there was pencil and paper, and then pen and paper, and then of course there was laptops. Once you started using laptops, what was the change in your own experience that you kind of observed in yourself? Was it able to accelerate your levels of learning or your ability to read more? How did the laptop change your life as it is changing life for so many thousands of students across the country today and across the world, of course?
You see, I think I am from another generation. No? I have come to this thing. I have gone through all these phases, as mentioned. But I find that today, if you ask me to do anything without laptop or without all these things, I think I'm a total failure because what is happening is that, you know, what we call it is our external mind. I don't have to keep everything in my mind when I'm talking to you. When I'm talking to you, I know that these things are already available to me. I don't always, I'm not trying to kind of, this is not only teaching. The concept of teaching is also changing. It's not cram. Don't cram things which if you can understand, you don't need to remember them. You will get them. All the data, you will get them. It is database industry. Everything is database. So you will get the data. But the point here is, I'm trying to say is that I can't think now to do anything without these gadgets. For example, I may not be as proficient or as a maybe a 20-year-old who is studying and all that, and he knows much more than me. But for my requirement, I must be equipped with that. And that is extremely, extremely important for me. That, for example, like I write different kind of things. And not only engineering, I write poetry, I write short stories, I write all kinds of things.
Fascinating, sir.
And what happens is that uh, because of these gadgets, I think they are helping me in many senses. They are helping me in many senses. If I just keep one word in this thing, note down somewhere, and the whole thing comes back. This is the way I look at it. I never try to I never think that my laptop or my computer is going to replace me. Nobody can replace me. That much I know, that nobody can replace me. Yes.
Dr. Ghosh, I come to you with a very, very important question. And I think you did speak about it a bit, but I just like you to elaborate on that, be slightly more expansive. You yourself mentioned that the concepts of education, especially in the engineering stream, have kind of changed. Now, Dr. Ghosh, when you have education of engineering education at one end, are you today in a position, the educational system in India, is it able to map the education to what industry actually needs?
Hmm. This is a very, very, what you call say, is a very important question. Now, as I was telling you, I face this kind of questions every day. Industry says, the first thing they say that employability of engineers is only 7%. And that puts down all the academia. And no, what are we doing? Or what are we doing? Are we producing only 7% which are worth employable? So the question is, requirements of industry are very different. We have to understand one thing also, one more other thing is that we are not, academia is not to produce only engineers who can fit into,
Organizations.
yeah, that is not the objective of any education. But again, the question is, if you are producing an engineer, and if you are, say, for example, uh, putting him in some industry, and if he doesn't have any understanding of the industry, then what happens? There are two issues. I talk to many students also. I told them, because as you know, in IIT systems or many other systems, they are doing BTech, and after that they are doing MBA, and they are doing something very different than what they were supposed to do. I
Indeed.
asked them, why you are doing this thing? They also tell me, they ask me a counter question. They tell me, Dr. Ghosh, how many industries are there who can really employ us? Do they have challenging jobs for us? That is the question they are asking. So at one end, engineers, industry is not very happy the way we are producing students. We also want to interact with them, want to talk to them, and we want to produce students, and that is what we are doing. Basically, when I'm talking about a whole engineering community, academic community, this happens. But then we have to restructure our program. We have to restructure our program. Instead of blaming students, teachers, or industry, we have to restructure our program. We must understand, because when you think of engineering, what comes to your mind first? It is design.
It is indeed design, sir.
Design. And now the question is, design must be given proper emphasis. When I am responsible for Indian National Academy of Engineering youth program, where we are trying to kind of deal with all the engineering students, third and fourth year engineering students of the country, what they think about. Because we tell them, we tell you all the time, we are telling you all the time, you should do this thing, that thing, this course, this thing, this principle, this philosophy. What you expect from us, and we have got very good feedback from them. And this, what I'm telling, this is a two-way process.
It is a two-way process.
It is two-way process, and that solves most of our problems. It should be not only a two-way process between industry, engineering students and teachers, but also between engineering colleges and industry. Industry
Right.
should also tell us, the kind of engineers they want. For example, I know many engineering colleges in the West. They have totally restructured their program. They have conventional teaching is now not sidelined. You can't sideline that, but it has a lot of good
Radically changed.
total change, and total emphasis is on design. From the first year, a student is involved with the industry.
Industry.
From
That's
the
very
first year, you're getting my point. The very important thing which is coming out is, I also, I know that nobody is going to accept that view. I think about general engineering instead of chemical engineering, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, civil engineering, and all.
always the entire
General
system.
engineering with a very minor, some amount of kind of specialized engineering.
Hi, Dr. Ghosh. With your permission, sir, of course, I do have a view on the clock, and I know you've got a hard schedule ahead. My final question to you: the engineers of today are going to be the technologists of tomorrow. The students of today are going to be the leaders of tomorrow. When
Yes.
you kind of look at this, and given your experience, sir, as you peer into the future, as you look towards the future, what role do you see in technology by itself? And what kind of an impact do you think it'll have in the student of tomorrow and the education of tomorrow? Dr. Ghosh.
You see, I think it's a very big question. Uh, I will give you my very brief answer to that. Is like something like this. Engineering education is is a kind of education which takes systems engineering approach.
Indeed.
You involve many things, you know. Now, one of the big things is that uh, many of our engineers are going to other professions, which is not, for argument's sake, we discuss about all these things. I also think about it. I find that engineers must go to other, for example, I know that many engineers are becoming IS officers, many engineers are becoming management consultants in different organizations and all that. Important is if you can use your engineering knowledge, whether you are an IS officer or whether you're a management consultant or whatever you are, if you can get an opportunity to use your engineering knowledge, because the major question comes whether an engineer can become a good manager or not, because the roles are very different. Their roles are very different. But engineer can become a good manager. I'm not talking about conventional engineering jobs. They are always there. No, if I'm a chemical engineer, I'm going to petroleum industry or any other industry. It's perfectly okay. What I'm talking about, when we are going to somewhere else, for example, then we have to really think about this thing that an engineer can work as a manager in any organization because of his background, because of the way knowledge is imparted to him. And that is why what I'm saying is that the way knowledge is imparted should be such that he can fit into anything. And becoming an IAS or becoming a management consultant or becoming this and that are also part of society. And if you are getting a mind which is fertile and has imagination, why not? That is what I feel.
Fascinating, sir. Fascinating, truly. And but that pretty much is what we have time for, Dr. Ghosh. It has been nothing short, sir, of a privilege having heard your views on well, a theme that is very, very critical for the nation by itself. So, Dr. Ghosh, at that point, thank you so much, sir. We're very grateful that you could join us.
Thank you, Arjun.
For the audience, thank you. You were with me, your host Arjun Vishwanathan, in conversation with Dr. Purnindu Ghosh, distinguished member of academia in India. Stay tuned, folks, and we'll be back with the next segment in just a moment. Hello and welcome back. I'm Arjun Vishwanathan, your host. And today, I'm going to be in conversation with two very, very eminent and distinguished members of the academia as a whole. And we are going to be talking about how the concepts of education are changing. Because education as a system continues to perform pretty much the same function that it always has. Curriculums have evolved, but the way it is taught is largely unchanged. Today, when nearly all knowledge is available online and machines are outperforming really humans at increasingly complex cognitive tasks, educators really must redefine thinking intensively and critically. And therefore, organizations will increasingly in the education system require an increasing reliance on technology. And to take this discussion forward, please join me in welcoming Vinod Kakade, Director Digital Identity Research Initiative at the Indian School of Business. Vinod, welcome. Delighted you could join us today.
Thank you, Arjun, for the introduction, and I'm also delighted and privileged to be part of this discussion.
Outstanding. And Rajat Arora, Director IT and Chief Technology Officer India at GUS Education at India. Rajat, welcome. Privileged that you could be with us, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Arjun. It's been an honor to be here and speaking to all of you here on this very
Outstanding.
interesting topic.
Gentlemen, we've got a very fascinating 25 minutes ahead of us, so I'm directly going to jump into it. And Mr. Kakde, if I could come to you,
Yeah, yeah.
the whole concepts of the infusion of technology in the education system, in the education value chain, in that entire process, as well pretty much radically changed over the last 1 year, where pretty much everything has been virtual. Now, in your view, when you kind of peer into the future, how much
Mhm.
is the technology playing a very pivotal or a very transformative role in education as a system? Mr. Vinod Kakade.
That's a very relevant question in today's regime, where technology is predominantly used in all forms of life. It has penetrated deeply into all aspects of our lives. It has touched initially it touched, now it is penetrated. And education is also one of the sector which is not left untouched by this technology. For the past 9 to 10 months, we are under this pandemic of COVID, where the usefulness and essence of technology has increased much more, manifold, in all spheres of life, including education. What I've seen in the past 1 year is increasing use of technology, chiefly because of penetration of internet has taken place everywhere, be it rural India or, of course, the penetration is much more in urban. Uh, in rural India also, it has increased manifold. And what I've seen that a few technologies are predominantly used, such as social marketing, uh, online teaching, wikis, classroom logs, internet whiteboard, and many more things which are increasingly being used because there is a limitation where people can assemble at one place, and so the technology of this sort has penetrated a lot, and it has kind of a broader disruption.
Indeed. It is fascinating, really, isn't it? Because Rajat, I will come to you now. Over the course of the last 1 year now, we've seen how technology has played such an important role in the whole concepts of the imparting of knowledge in education. Uh, in your view, Rajat Arora, how has the humble workstation or the mobile workstation, as it were, how
Mhm.
do you think that has changed the overall value system of the teacher and the student relationship and that experience by itself? What is your view, both from today as well as from a futuristic point of view?
Arjun, I think that's a very relevant question and a point that you're making here around the teacher-student experiences and relationship changing with the new advent of technology. It's definitely changing the dynamics of education, especially the relationship between the two. As educators begin to rethink the learning experience, I believe it will be important to also reshape educational spaces to support this evolution. With all levels of education, learning is now occurring both remotely and on-site through blended learning programs that combine online and face-to-face interaction. So blended learning can cut costs for you. It makes it very popular in the today, changing economy. There are also early signals that from various other studies that suggest giving students more control over how they access information can be more effective than all face-to-face or all virtual learning. So we're seeing the need for classrooms to become highly flexible spaces that supports this new behavior of learning that are direct results of new technologies. So let's accept it. Learning online is the future. It's going to be here. And interactive whiteboards, as you said, blended learning, access to interactive online content, virtual learning environments, they will become the norm. I believe we cannot afford to ignore these changes. And so the teachers should learn on how to build effective relationships with learners online and vice versa, right? So this may mean that they need to reassess on how to create relationships and build rapport with their students. and should encourage leaders to commit to the course in the same way as they would in the class, you know, when it was face to face. So, so that's my take on it.
Outstanding. And I found that very powerfully articulated because, Vinod, I am going to come to you, sir, which is that
Right.
the maturity evolution of technology has been significant. Well, I could even say unprecedentedly radical, unprecedentedly accelerated. Now, when you kind of look at that, and with machines, your laptops,
Mhm,
becoming
mhm.
more powerful, how do you think that, coupled with the teacher-student relationship, will help accelerate the fostering of the spirit of innovation and the spirit of invention within the students of today, who are pretty much going to be the technologists of tomorrow and the leaders of tomorrow? How do you see that playing out? Vinod Thakre.
Yeah, it's a very relevant question actually, and very important one to answer also. As a as and when the technology is evolving, the role of students and teachers are also evolving. Actually, it is not a stagnant role which the teacher is playing, which he or she used to play in past decade or so on. With the advent of technology and new innovations coming in technology, it is very important to understand what the role of student and teacher is going to be. Now onwards, it is going to be much more articulated. The student as well as teacher have to be very technology savvy. They need to understand that the older ways of learning or teaching is not going to work in the current scenario or in forthcoming years. And it is evident and it is also seen that technology is evolving. It will evolve at a much faster rate. When the technology is evolving at a much faster rate, we also have to catch up with the technology. And what I see is the neo technologies such as Internet of Things, machine learning, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, they will play a much more significant role in coming years.
Interesting.
Although now they are already playing a big role, but their role will increase manyfold from now onwards. And it is imperative for all of us to be hand in hand with this new technology. It's
Very,
it is like imperative now.
very finely put. Because Rajat, if I could come to you with the same thing. Uh, uh, Mr. Kakne just spoke about the whole concept of artificial intelligence, machine learning, augmented and virtual reality. Now, when you kind of put that all together, and the fact that the human-machine interaction is pretty much a given, do you think these emergent technologies, coupled with powerful machines that we use on a day-to-day basis, are, in your view, symbolic of the system evolving to drive more comprehensive collaboration as compared to, and this is, I think, a question that confronts industry also, which is the enterprises, which is, yeah, collaboration used to happen because you were sitting next to me or we were all together in a room. But today with machines, but enhanced with machine learning, virtual reality, augmented reality, do you think we will move towards a system of education where collaboration could perhaps become easier? Or is that just a myth? Rajat Arora.
Um, I think it will definitely become more, you know, meaningful and easier, if I may put. Uh, you see, the computing and networking technologies have the potential to advance communication and collaboration by laying the foundation for cloud-based services, you know, such as the emails, instant messaging, the online meetings, file sharing, and all of that. Online workspaces, right? Each of these have a specific benefit and they do support the real-time communication. If you've seen the high quality video and audio, you know, whiteboarding,
Mhm.
screen sharing, uh, scheduling assistance, you know, recording and playback controls, all of these actually help the teachers, the staff, and the students share ideas and then document and then, you know, project details like meeting, you know, meeting notes and task lists, etc. So, so I think it's very, very evident. And then one of the other things around collaboration and communication coupled with technology is the social media adaptation as well. which is now being recognized as an accepted form of instructions, right? In some instances, where you've seen the teachers which provide, excellent support and tips for instructors, right? So many of these instructors, if you've seen, now have started using the social media to communicate directly with their students, and then to form forum style groups for students to communicate with each other. And so the method seems to be providing valuable in providing one-on-one interaction to students and their questions and concerns, etc. Right. So I think essentially we are getting into the anytime, anywhere education age, right? Um, and technology would enable new ways of learning, new ways of communicating, collaborating. Um, yeah.
Brings me to a very, very important question. And Vinod, I will come to you on this.
Hmm. Yeah.
Whole concepts of what Rajat just mentioned are also about self-learning, e-learning. Now, with
Right.
your workstation and machines becoming more powerful, and we just spoke about artificial intelligence and machine learning, do you think we
Right.
are progressing towards a path where the the experience of the student will think it's mostly reliant on the machine that we have? The machine student relationship will kind of
Hmm.
overshoot the traditional teacher student relationship, because the machine knows how you're learning, the machine knows how you're studying, the machine knows the pace at which you're perhaps reading or writing. Do you think it'll evolve to a point where your machine, the workstation by itself, will become so smart that it will have the ability to function seamlessly as one with the student? I mean, we're obviously looking at the future. Nowhere are we saying that teachers are going to kind of
Yeah.
disappear. It's a question that merits.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. What I feel is the role of traditional role of a teacher will continue to be evolving. It is not going to be the way it was. I definitely foresee that the machines will play a much larger role now onwards, with the advent of artificial intelligence and machine learning, and machines becoming much smarter and understanding the nuances of human being, how human being they work, they operate. So machine has the capability of learning everything, and I definitely see that they will play much more a bigger role in coming years. And the dependence of students on machine will increasingly will increasingly be more important, and it will have much more emphasis as compared to the present being. And what I also see that newer technologies of faster communication will also get evolved. Nowadays, what we see that the teachers using WhatsApp for communication. Earlier, maybe 5 6 years down, if you see that WhatsApp had a very lesser role in communication, but now it has become real time, 24/7. Whatever
Indeed.
you have, you just message, and everything becomes very important. So I feel that all those technologies will get evolved also, and the dependence on machine will increasingly be much more as compared to
Understanding.
the
Rajat, I
past or the
ask you
present.
the same question really. Do you think it's going to be the machine and the student, with the teacher perhaps mostly being playing the mentor? Do you think that the machine
Mhm.
student relationship will kind of overshoot the traditional teacher student relationship?
Uh, not quite, in my view, because uh, the teacher and the student, who is the consumer, they got to build a rapport, they got to build a relationship, right? The underlying technology that enables it is only improving that relationship, or only enhancing the experience of both parties, right?
Mhm.
So I believe that it's not going to be, the relationship has to grow and get better, probably in a different dimension, a dimension we've not seen in the past. But essentially, they're the two parties who are dealing with this, right? Who are the consumers who would use it, and technology would enhance that experience dramatically, in my view.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because it brings me to a very important question that merits the seriousness that it perhaps does, which is that, and we know, Mr. Kakre, I will come to you, which is that, and therefore, when you kind of look at it from this point of view, and you're, of course, there
Mhm.
in School of Business, how do you see technology playing a role in imparting the kind of education that industry needs rather than
Mm.
how education has traditionally been viewed? Because at the end of the day, you are fostering a sense of management excellence at ISB.
Right.
How do you kind of bring about a confluence of industry needs and therefore imparting of education with technology being center stage?
Already it has started playing a very significant role. See, now the technology is available 24 by 7 around the clock, and the industry is always in direct contact with the academia. The role of industry is much more prevalent now. You can see the role being played by the industry, and the academia is already absorbing the requirements of the industry. So with technology it has getting better and enhanced. So what I have seen and what I will definitely tell for the future also, that academia, the role of industry is going to be much more important now. They can always fine tune the kind of teaching which is happening in the classrooms. With the advent of technology, it is becoming much more easy for them to drive the academia in tune with the industry requirements now.
Very,
And
very.
yeah, we'll definitely see a lot more role of the teaching which is happening, the traditional way of teaching in the classroom will get fine tuned to the industry needs. This is going to happen, and the technology is going to become the enabler in it actually in the
Okay,
coming days.
Rajat, I come to you with equally an important question, and given your very expansive background, is we've spoken about teaching, we've spoken about the teacher-student experience, but education as an enterprise, if I were to call it that, is not just about the teaching part. There's administrative work. There's the entire concepts of placements. There's the entire concept of the physical infrastructure too.
Mhm.
In your view, Rajat Arora, how do you see technology more scale and agility within the other areas and the peripheral areas of education as a concept?
Well, I think it plays a huge role. I mean, no doubt about it. See, we're in a hyper connected world, right? And the experience sharing through digital means would surely create, uh, effective learning models. And through these models, if you see all of these entities, all the support functions and administrative areas that you're talking of will come into play, right? So the entire higher education ecosystem currently has gone this through the significant change, right, in the last 10 odd years. And we definitely seeing there's no sign of slowing down. So I think that the research process and the distance learning revenue streams, right, all of these, basically it has been pervading through the classroom teaching experience in the past with digital whiteboards and adaptive learning technologies and techniques. And all of this have now been able to create a unique experience for the students and the teachers. So if I was to put the mobile and the social platforms, right, uh, in how it particularly drives students engage with the college, and then with other students as well, there is definitely a very strong push in that direction, that we are using all of these other areas of technology and how it's helping, and sort of the other areas are contributing to this. Um, and in my view, because I'm from the IT side of it, and I've been heading the IT world, the teams here in the company, I can say there's high expectations from the IT to transform, and then to be able to respond to these new drivers, which are essentially consumerization, social, hyper convergence, and mobile everything, and analytics and data, to be able to then support that core function which you spoke of, which is the actual teaching part of it, right? Um, and I think we're going to see a lot of this in the future, where you would see these kind of new operating models coming up, and we already have things like personalization, which is essentially, uh, it's the key basically to the 21st century education, which is providing online learning and especially curated courses, right, to learners on a variety of subjects and topics, right? And it could be learning or taking up assessments or uh, so I think personalization is really taking education to a new level.
I mean, it's interesting that you say that, Rajat, because it's also therefore imperative and incumbent on me to ask you about the underlying infrastructure, which is how high performance and precision machines can deliver significant business value to educational institutions by themselves. Especially, like we've already spoken about, powered by the emergent technologies of machine
Right.
learning,
Yeah.
reality, and so on and so forth. Rajat Arora, what is your view on that?
So Arjun, I think that streamlining your IT infra layer uh, with hyperconvergence would do the trick. And that's my view, because I know there are varied approaches to this, and
Mm.
everybody has their own way of crafting a certain architecture and design that enables it. In my view, it's the hyperconvergence. Having a hyper-converged infrastructure that increases your operational efficiency, right? It basically combines 8 to 10 or 12, perhaps, disparate IT components all put together and services into a single solution. And that could easily scale on demand, right? So that basically simplifies your IT infrastructure stack. Hyperconverged infrastructure empowers IT agility and time to production, right? These systems are self-managing, they're self-optimizing, right? Self-healing, they're all AI driven. And they deliver a lot of simplicity and, your economy of hyperconverged for your entire environment. On top of these, when you would have your advanced, capable, modern end user computing devices, you would
Mm.
then be in a position to enable a consistent and a satisfying experience for the users, right? Which is essentially on any device, in any location, right? This solves your classic computing problems by bringing together their management, their security, their virtualization, authentication tools in one cohesive system. Again, backed by predictive analysis and all of that.
Yeah.
So, so I think again, and finally, when you have this entire piece, you build on top of this is your applications, which are very modern applications, AI based, and again with machine learning and the Internet of Things. Uh, you could embed all of those applications on top of this layer that would do the trick.
Funny, because Vinod, I'm going to come to you, Mr. Kakre, with the same
Yeah.
question, but in a slightly nuanced format, which is that where a lot of content today, which is educational content,
Mhm.
almost hype for educational institutions, how important is the whole concept of the endpoint security by itself, the workstation's ability to deliver so much, but equally the workstation or the machines or the technology's ability to be secure? How important is that for let's say ISB, for educational organizations?
Yeah, it is extremely important. Security, data security is extremely important actually, and that's where the institutes or the organizations are also spending their money on it. It becomes very imperative and very important for us to secure the data as well. So we have done our investments in that side as well. And as Rajat spoke about hyper-converged network, we are also working on it actually. And I also feel that newer technologies like quantum computing will play a much more big role in coming years. Recently, I was reading about one problem which would have taken about hundreds of years to get solved by traditional computing devices, and the quantum computer just did it in few seconds. So I see these technologies will get evolved and play a much bigger role in coming years, and including security also as well as.
Of course, goes without saying. But that was well nuanced, well articulated, sir. Well, I do have a view on the clock, gentlemen, and I do know you have busy schedules ahead. But in the interest of the wonderful audience that's tuning in to us today, I too have the time to sneak in one question each. Mr. Kakade, having
Yeah.
heard reviews, you've heard Rajat, given your expanse and the spectrum that you have available to you from a viewpoint perspective,
Mhm.
what then is your essential guidance to educational institutions towards the leveraging of technology to accelerate the whole process of education and evolve it to the needs of tomorrow, given the backdrop of today? Mr. Vinod Kakade.
Yes, definitely. Uh, the premier educational institutes are already following that regime actually. As Rajat spoke about the blended learning and its relevance in today's world, it is going to be increasingly much more important now. And the academia understands this thing. What is the requirement of the industry? What is the requirement of social needs? And they have commitment to it, so they are evolving it. They understand this its importance, and already they are working on it. And what I feel is the role will definitely percolate down to the lower institutes at your primary educations, the schools. I see that it will percolate down to those institutions as well. uh, when we speak about India, the what I see is the speeds or the internet penetration, which is increasing now, will definitely will get a better, much more better infrastructure in coming days. And I only see that the importance will become much more relevant, and each stakeholder will have a role to play in it.
Very wisely put. Rajat, I come to you with the same question. What will it take for educational institutions, education as a value chain by itself, to embrace technology with greater enthusiasm? And therefore, what is your essential guidance to educational institutions, the overall value chain, in how they should approach it towards an evolvement of maturity? Rajat Arora.
So I think that technology and embracing technology would be the key for these institutes. And if I was to just talk about Gus institutes per se, because you know we're headquartered in the Europe and close to about 30 plus brands now that we support out of Hyderabad as well. I think we've been closely observing how these institutes have have adapted to the current times and embraced technology, right? The right tools, and then to be able to provide that back to the students and that advantage to the student community, essentially. So I think it's basically the right technology that you pick up. I mean, you call it the AI based learning, you call it the ML based learning using Internet of Things uh, to basically get variety of automation tools in that space, right? Um,
Mm.
talk of AR, VR, both learners and facilitators are benefiting out of that innovation. Uh, and then the seamless integration of both AR and VR in the online academic landscape, right? To provide that personalized learning and basically upskill the learners. All of that is something that's currently happening, and I think the universities, the institutes are very aware of it, and they're changing with the times. And it's the changes at a rapid pace. I can tell you, it's growing,
Yeah.
and we're all moving in that direction. We're all enabling that as technologists. Essentially, we're empowering uh, our institutes, essentially along those lines.
Fantastic, fantastic. And much as I perhaps wish that I could continue this very, very fascinating conversation, that pretty much is what we have time for in this segment. Mr. Kakane, Rajat, it has been nothing short of a delight and a privilege having been in dialogue with you. Thank you so much for your participation.
Thank you, Arjun.
Thank you, Arjun.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Ladies and gentlemen, I was in conversation with Vinod Kakade from the Indian School of Business and Rajat Arora from GUS uh, Educational Systems. Uh, Thank you for joining us. Please stay tuned and we'll be back with the next segment in just a moment.
Thank you, Arjun, for engaging our guests in an absorbing panel discussion on their experiences with furthering their workspace collaboration journey with Dell Workstation Solutions. Excellent takeaways for IT and digital transformation leaders from that insightful panel discussion, I must say. Dear delegates, do remember to fill out the feedback form at the end of today's webinar episode. Your feedback is invaluable as it helps us improve the content, structure, and presentation of our webinars and virtual conferences. Ladies and gentlemen, our next session is a fireside chat with a senior executive from our partners, Dell Technologies. In keeping with the theme of today's episode, Mr. Arjun Vishwanathan, Chief Research Officer, Strateging, will be engaging in a conversation with an EdTech solutions expert from Dell Technologies India. In this chat, Mr. Vishwanathan will engage in a discussion on the key business benefits an organization can leverage by deploying state-of-the-art workplace solutions to improve student enrollments and faculty recruitment, the teaching learning experience, and speed up research and development outcomes. Over to you, Arjun.
Hello and welcome. I'm Arjun Vishwanathan, and I am now going to be in dialogue with none other than Suhas Pingat, Brand Manager Precision at Dell Technologies India. Suhas, welcome. Delighted you could join us again.
Thank you, Arjun. It's always been a pleasure to be part of the series that you have, very much interactive, and it's good to be back again.
Thank you. And for the audience, we are in dialogue now for matters that are perhaps critical to the overall evolution of India, not just as a nation, but India as a nation where education clearly dominates the entire spectrum of the life cycle of the average citizen, right from the childhood onwards till such time that folks are able to then get back into being part of the workforce. And in all of this and within this really, what is clear is that technology must perhaps be used correctly to be effective. And in order to do that, identifying the right workstation perhaps for various types of students of varying degrees of ages, as also the stream of education that is being pursued is very, very important. Suhas, to bring you into the conversation, we had a fascinating set of conversations with Dr. Purnendu Ghosh earlier today, which you kind of saw. And then we had this conversation with Vinod Kakare from the Indian School of Business and Rajat Arora from Gus Universities. Now, my question to you, Suhas, is we spoke about the whole concept of the parent-teacher and the teacher-student relationships. Now, hark back to a time when perhaps a lot of us were students, that was more physical. However, now with the lines between the physical and the virtual kind of being fairly blurred, how, in your view, is technology playing a role in taking that forward to a more mainstream kind of scenario, a mainstream environment where technology, if not center stage, is still in the peripherals to be able to enhance that relationships? Last thing.
Yes, Arjun, you pointed it out right that education at that our point of time was physical, and I do remember getting those scales on my knuckles here. Okay,
we all do. I used to get
today things have changed. Okay, so that just was in a lighter vein, but I guess it made us better students at those point of time. You pointed it right. Technology is, to a certain extent, not only in the periphery, but it is now gaining momentum and traction and slowly entering to be the core tenet basis which education will be delivered to students across. The students could be from K to 12, undergrads, postgrads, and absolute high-end education as well. So I believe that is going to be there. It's going to be evolving. There are a few important aspects that we need to understand here very, very clearly as to how technology can be a better enabler. Okay. I do remember one of the panelists, I guess Rajat, he mentioned one thing very, very clearly, that it has to be a blended learning. And I agree on that. I completely agree, because you cannot completely disassociate the physical presence of a teacher. Okay, a teacher being a mentor or a guide, a friend, a philosopher, what do you mean? Because a teacher is an important person in this entire ecosystem of education. So that interaction will still have to be remaining. It can be classroom, it can be some other ways of communication. With this, what we will have is certain areas which can be imparted in education to make it more better, to make it immersive, to make it more adaptive to the student that we're going to have today. As if you remember, some of the earlier times we said that the millennial is the one who adapts to technology better, and hence in that aspect, I do believe that the students will adopt the technology much better and much faster than we would have done at the same point in time when we were of the same years age. So that will happen. We will also have enablers like VR, virtual reality, augmented reality, in places where it can be used so that difficult education concepts can be made easier to understand. Okay. Then we have this whole base of internet and knowledge that is existing today. It's vast. I mean, a single mobile phone is a window of an opportunity for a student to actually gain knowledge,
To the
expertise,
world,
anything.
really.
Right? It's a world. So how do you enable that for the student to pick up? Right? Uh, if a student wants to learn something more on physics, where does that student go? Okay, that student could be in the 8th standard or the 10th standard. It's quite possible. So that knowledge base is there. You have the extended reach of the social media platform, which today is being constantly used as a medium for education as well. As I think Mr. Kakre mentioned that WhatsApp is now being used as a formal medium. In fact, my daughter, she's in the 8th standard, and her entire class and the class teacher is on a WhatsApp. Right. So that is obviously going to be very important. Ultimately, it's social media at the end of the day.
Indeed.
With this, and at a later stage when connectivity improves drastically as we move from 4G nation to a 5G nation, when you combine these things, then education is seriously going to be very much worthwhile. And I think both of us would probably think we should have been born at this time. But anyway, good things are happening. And I think it's not only at the periphery, as you suggested, it's now slowly and steadily getting inside the system.
It's interesting that you mentioned this, Suhas, because I am going to draw you into, well, what uh, I am going to call it a debate, and I am seeking your understanding and how you kind of view this entire thing. For a long time, the concepts of innovation and invention have, well, been slow to take off uh, within the cultural ecosystem that we have been all part of. It is my view, as well as a sizable proportion of the population, that technology's ability to open up windows to a vast world that students today or students yesterday did not have the access to is also helping foster a sense of collaboration and innovation with decomposed geographical boundaries, with the teacher playing the role purely of the mentor or the influencer. From that point of view, so Pingat, my question to you is, where do you stand? Isn't technology and this humble sentinel called the workstation or the mobile workstation, isn't it pivotal to cultural abilities to foster the sense of innovation and inventiveness for generations to come? So Pingat.
Yeah, Arjun, to a certain extent, I agree to what you're saying that the humble workstation, mobile workstation is key and it is important. And today, the humble workstation, as in our business, is a workstation which is very heavy on compute and graphics. And its capability to deliver certain platforms within education is fantastic. Okay. And if we are using, let's say, workstations or systems which are AI enabled,
Indeed.
and then you're going to have various platforms also AI enabled. So how is it really going to be effective for a student? Yes, to a very great extent, it will enable the thinking nature of a student in a
Indeed.
very different concept. The student will start thinking differently because there are certain concepts which at a point in time would be very difficult to understand. Okay. For example, if I were to take a simple diagram of a heart, which is there on a textbook, and if my system enables me to see it in a different way, where I put in a VR glass and actually see the heart pumping, that is enablement of technology. And I think I completely agree with that. That is where the systems become so powerful that you can actually impart education in a different way. And in this moment, the teacher becomes a mentor because the teacher says, okay, fine, this is what you've got to do. And at the end of the session, you got to come back to me and tell me what you actually thought about and what did you learn. So that aspect is not going to escape. That is going to be there. I would still consider teacher to be more than a mentor, to be more of a guide. I think that relationship is very, very key. All otherwise, what I see is that if you become completely dependent on technology, and unless and until there is collaboration, see what happens is because now things are different. A medium of education is also getting into virtual mode. Today's students are sitting on their notebooks, doing their classes every single day, morning 9 to afternoon 1, and so on and so forth. There is an element of boredom and fatigue that is coming into children as well. We need to understand that. And because the children need to be in a class, right? They need to have that mischievous pattern in that come out. You cannot explore it with a machine, right? So there has to be a fine balance, and that fine balance will completely depend on how the institution or the academia takes it ahead. Because you cannot expect a student to be only interactive with the system.
True that.
The student has to be at the end of the day interactive the with other students, and of course the teaching faculty and the children and the teachers as well. So very important, and I think we're at the cusp of a place where we have to ensure that technology goes in sync with what is required.
Because, okay, thank you. I mean, I think you put it powerfully because I'm now going to progress the same debate onwards. We've been speaking about students classically from the point of view of
Right.
school and high school. I now move to higher education. Let's take research. Let's take petroleum research, where augmented and virtual realities coupled with vast amounts of data that you have, and therefore artificial intelligence and machine learning, are actually helping researchers further the aims and the objectives, the strategic objectives of Indian industry by themselves. Now, don't you think that technology's play has to have centrality as well as plurality in the overall value chain?
Absolutely, Arjun. I think that is something which is very, very important. You got it absolutely right. And you just mentioned petrochemical. There are so many different fields today where in India, the advantage of technology, which was, let's say, sorry, the disadvantage of technology was existing about more than a couple of decades back is no more there, right? Today, technology that is available across the world, it's available for us as well. So that is something which is very, very important. So today, a student at the higher end, which is high end research, cannot complain that technology is not there.
Not available.
Technology is available. Now, how do you utilize it? You mentioned it specifically right. Let's say in petrochemical, you get into the various structured study of how exactly am I going to get out the fossil fuel, for example. It's as simple as that. How do I utilize upstream concepts using technology as a medium for immersive education? So that's where VR takes a completely important play. How does AR help me to understand safety measures and concepts? And how does AR help me to understand the machinery that goes into an oil rig? So there are so many different things, and it's not only, let's say, limited to oil and gas. I am a student of history, arts, and culture. Pardon?
I said, take the
Yeah.
vaccine, for
So
example.
arts and vaccine itself. I mean, it's so different. Why is it that it's taken only 1 year when earlier it used to take about 4, 5, 6, 7 years? Okay, so it's taken only 1 year to come up with a vaccine, and it's not only one institution. There are so many institutions worldwide are doing that. Now, where does that happen? Technology obviously has been a very crucial role, and whether you want to actually visualize it, whether you want to see it, you want to create something, that's something wonderful. I'll take a step back. Why should be limited to only high-end technology? I am a student of arts and culture. I want to visit the best of the best museums across the world. Can I do that right now? Yes, you
Physically,
can.
no.
Virtual reality enables it. Okay, for a student may not be possible to visit the top 10 museums in the world,
Indeed.
right? But with virtual reality, the student can actually go in depth into that particular museum, into a particular section, and learn more, which was not there earlier, right? So it's imparted into each and every field of education. Let it be high-end, let it be arts and humanities, let it be engineering, or the humble mathematician also. If they have to see numbers in, let's say, in a different medium, they can actually now do that because the technology is there to do all that, to enable all that.
It brings me to a very important question, which I'm going to try to bring to you and fashion in two parts. What then stops the education value chain? Parents, teachers, educational institutions, and of course, students at the end of the day. Where is the reticence in adopting and embracing technology? When I say technology, I'm fundamentally saying the medium and the vehicle is this brilliant piece of machinery that enables me to talk to you today. Where do you see, given your vast experience, the reticence to embrace this in a more enthusiastic, inclusive manner, number one? And part two is therefore from the perspective of Dell Technologies, Suhas Finger, what is your essential guidance and advice to educational institutions in navigating perhaps this complex journey in a much more easier manner, in a much more seamless manner? Yes.
Yes, Arjun. See, today, the adoption of technology as far as the parent and the child is concerned is changing, and that has changed drastically and dramatically because what's happening is uh, we've been talking about all this, and it sounds cliched now. The pandemic has changed everything, right? But please understand, India is a large country. We are we are a country where sometimes for some families, a lot of families, it becomes difficult to adopt technology fast. Uh, there are homes which have 4 or 5 notebooks. There are homes where there is only a humble. There are homes where there is only one humble mobile phone. Okay, and
Indeed.
that's how the student is getting educated as you
There's
speak
also
now.
the diversity.
So it's not. Yeah, it's not because the parent does not want the student to be enabled with the technology. There is a social element to it. There is a financial element to it, and hence that adoption will of course continue, and it will continue and it will improve as we move ahead. Okay, because here the medium is not only the humble workstation. The medium of delivery can be any platform.
Indeed.
So that will change positively, and hence I don't see there is a reluctance there. The reluctance is primarily because of maybe financial constraints. Okay, that's one aspect. Now, when you get into the academia and the education institution, I do not see an issue there right now because it purely depends. The format of education and what is being delivered, that actually will dictate what technology will be taking part. So in K-12, there's not much unless and until it's only the medium, which means you have to accept that. So it means the end user. When you move slightly up and ahead, the complexities involved in education and in various streams of education will, will ensure that the entire education system and the institution will adopt technology as quickly as possible. You see that every second day on the social media platform, you see that there are 6 month, 3 month courses of data science. You need not be a coding engineer, but yet you can be a data scientist. I do not know how. Now, so that's a fantastic stream. And there are organizations who want these data scientists. And it's like, you remember the .com that happened?
Indeed.
Okay. So something like that is happening today. And this, of course, is not the bust for sure. How are education institutions going to adopt this change very quickly? What is it? And it's not that they are not delivering industry relevant content to a certain, as Mr. Kakade also mentioned earlier, that the industry is also adapting. Sorry, the industry is adapting. Academic and academic, it's both ways. It's collaboration. That is changing, and that is where you will find a lot of technology being enabled for education institutions. I'm not talking the premium ones, which are the IITs and one so forth. That's a different topic altogether. So they will have to invest, and investment does come at a certain price, but the investment is not as if you've done it and you've forgotten. The rate of investment is over a period of time. It's not one student. It's like hundreds of students who are going to be using that technology, right? So that's where they need to understand that investment is important. Plus, need to invest where it is really relevant.
Indeed. And that is very, very important, isn't it?
So if you are a large engineering organization, sorry, an institution, then of course you need to know that there are labs that have to be enabled in a much, much better way.
More
You
intelligent.
will not need a maths lab to be as graphic intensive or as a mechanical engineering lab, right? I'm just giving a very basic, crude example. So that's what has to change, and that will definitely, that change is happening. Vocational training is also very, very important and key. The blue collar workers, which actually drives the economy, that also has to be technology enabled. And there are a lot of projects that the government is today driving to make them technology aware as well. So that is what I feel is the sum of all this. And where does Dell play an important role for us? Education is very, very critical, because at the end of the day, we are a large global IT company, specifically into products and solutions and technologies. And we as a company would also require the manpower, not today, but 5 years down the line and 6 years, 10 years down the line. Where is that going to come from?
With the permission, sir, while you're articulating that particular narrative from the Dell perspective, and given I have a view on the clock, I know you've got a hard stop, Suhas. If you could also briefly give us a glimpse into how Dell Technologies, globally as well as in India specifically, is leveraging its innovation power, its innovation engine to deliver education and edtech excellence. Suhas.
Yes, there are various mediums through which we do that, Arjun. The innovation that is there in Dell, and specifically, it's not only with the Dell Precision portfolio, but across the portfolio where we have a lot of product innovation and features. And if we were talk about precision, we are definitely the forefront with a lot of education institutions, where we go ahead and tell them to set up labs, to set up center of excellences, start from scratch, build up your entire labs, and so on and so forth. So that's where we give a sense of innovativeness that Dell has. There is a certain different angle to maybe the social cause as well, and we do play a large role in that, where we impart education not directly, but to certain organizations, where we ensure that a large medium of students get kind of enabled as far as learning is concerned. The medium is of course technology. So there are two parts to it. One is of course the social, which we are at the forefront obviously, and the second aspect is how do we ensure that education institutions get our technology, right? The innovation that we do is obviously there for the organizations to take, right? You could be a large organization which is in retail, for example, and hence we impart that technology to them because they want to use it. How do we do the same thing to a marketing institution, or let's say an MBA organization where you want to impart those techniques? We do have a lot of things. We internally have a lot many courses that are available, which we use internally. So we have a huge education system within the organization itself, right? So because everybody has to learn at even I learn today. So that's how it is. That innovativeness in technology is available for all education institutions to adopt. Take it, right? Innovation can be at the enterprise level. The innovation can be at the precision level, which means from the edge to the core and to the cloud. So that's what we would like the current students to take cognizance of that fact and ensure that you learn the right way. See, technology is there. I've always believed that technology is going to be there. It is up to education institutions. Either we go to them or they come to us. We collaborate. We are consultants to that extent. See, because we will not be in a position to give education.
Of course.
We will enable the technology that is there. We will be used to go ahead.
That's very powerfully narrated. So thank you so much. I do have a view on the clock, and I know you've got a hard stop, but very, very grateful you could join us today. Thank you so much. It was lovely speaking with you. Thank you so much, Suhas.
Thank you, Arjun. Pleasure is mine as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And for the stay tuned, we'll be back in just a moment.
That's all we have for you. We hope you enjoyed the second and final episode of the Digital Workforce Collaboration Solutions webinar mini-series that we brought you today. This webinar mini-series was sponsored by Dell Technologies India. Please do take a minute to fill out and submit your feedback form. On behalf of Dell Technologies and Strategic Solutions, I take this opportunity to thank you all for attending and our panelists and expert speakers for enriching us with their experiences and insights. Take care, stay safe, and may your organization go places with the right workspace collaboration solutions for the workforce of tomorrow. This is Ushma Tyagi signing off on behalf of Strategic Solutions.